Hey, what's going down, savages? Welcome to episode 36 of This Savage Life. I'm your host, Stéphane Paulson. What's going down on this beautiful Thursday, April 30th? It's rainy right now in Montreal this Thursday morning as I wake up and I drink my coffee. A bit groggy. My new sleep schedule is about midnight to 8:30, 9 o'clock right now during this stay-at-home protocol. It's not much different than my normal weekends before this coronavirus. But normally during the week, because I work, I get up at like 6:30 or 6:30 to get to work for like 7. So definitely once I get back to work, I'm gonna have to start getting back to normal and start going to bed a little bit earlier so I can get up a bit earlier. But right now, I'm feeling pretty comfortable getting up around this fucking time. Kids get up before us. Kids are up. They're old enough to make their own breakfast now, and I don't have to worry about that. So they're nice enough to let us sleep in. Let's be honest, right? At my house, the kids pretty much run the fucking show. You hear that? Oh, fuck, I love coffee. On today's episode, I'm joined by my good friend Terry Tam. If you've listened to my podcast before, you've heard him before. He's been on quite a few times. A great friend of mine. I fucking love talking to him. He's the co-host of Hot Sauce Sports, a sports podcast available anywhere you want. Check it out on YouTube. Check it out on Facebook. Check it out anywhere else you can download your podcast. I had him on. We spoke about the Netflix documentary, The Last Dance, which is the documentary about the Chicago Bulls and their 1998 championship run, which was the last championship they won. It's very Michael Jordan heavy, obviously, but it's a great fucking documentary. And we're up to episode 4 now. They're releasing, if you haven't followed it or if you haven't watched it, The Last Dance, available on Netflix. They're releasing 2 episodes every Sunday. It started a couple Sundays ago. We're up to episode 4 now. Episode 5 and 6 will be released this coming Sunday. So we spoke about that. We also talked about the NFL draft that happened last week, and we went in depth into that. I was interesting. I wanted to know some of his opinions on the draft picks and the guys that were drafted and some of the guys that got drafted early and some of the guys that got drafted a bit later. So if you're not into sports, this episode's probably not going to be for you. It's very sports heavy. We basically only talked about sports. So yeah, if you're not into sports, you might want to skip this one, because it's not going to be interesting for you. But if you are, well, this one's for you. If you are watching the current documentary, if you followed the NFL and the draft, this episode's for you. You'll definitely enjoy it. Terry is very knowledgeable, having his own podcast strictly about sports. Just a great guy, great dude. I just love having him on. That's why I have him on so often. He's a seasoned vet at this podcast thing, and we always end up having great conversation. So I really hope you enjoy episode 36 of This Savage Life. See? It's too early for this shit. I'm mumbling all over the place. I really hope you enjoy episode 36 of This Savage Life with my good friend Terry Tam. Especially right now. Right now, it's a tough argument to have. Everybody watching him is like falling back in love with him, you know?
But even me, I'm like, fuck, he was good, man.
Dude. You know what's funny about The Last Dance is that I grew up as a teenager watching the Bulls win their championships.
Okay.
Like 92, and I'm born in 1980, so I was like 91, 92, 93. Like I started watching like around 92, 93, like after their like second and third run, the championship. And then the last three, the 96, 97, 98, that's when I really got into it. And, I was a fan. I was a basketball player. I played high school basketball. And I was just a fan. I enjoyed watching the game, and I watched all the games. Yeah. But I didn't pay attention to anything behind the scene.
Yeah.
So now that I watched this Last Dance documentary, like I'm seeing a lot of stuff that I had no idea, because after they won and after they kind of dispersed and they became shitty again, I just lost interest in the Bulls. Like I was really more a Pippen, Jordan, Rodman fan than I was a Chicago Bulls fan.
Yeah. So that's what I find it is about basketball too, especially if you're not from an actual city that has a team. Like I only know Jordan. I'm not going to sit here and say I remember 96, 97, and 98. I remember the 98 season. I for sure remember that. I was around 12 years old. I'm born in 86, so it's about the same time you started watching basketball too.
Yeah.
So I saw him come back, and I knew who Jordan was. Even if a guy retires like 5 years before you started watching, you kind of see they show a lot of highlights. All I did was watch TSN with my brother. So like everything I watched was always related to Jordan or whatever it is. And he was amazing, man. And the star that he was fucking nuts. It was nuts.
And I think that's why when people ask me what's my favorite athlete of all time, like athletic wise, it might not be him, but for me, it's Michael Jordan, simply because when I was watching him in the 90s, not only win all these championships, but just obviously how good he was on the court, but also how huge he was as an athlete, as a sports icon, like all over the world.
As a star.
Just a superstar,
Yeah, it was. He's bigger than life, man, back then, and it still is. He's still making more money now than he was making before, just off his shoes. You know what I mean? So, and you can't. I mean, I'm a Pacers fan because of Reggie Miller, and I know. Funny. Yeah, and
I'm a huge Reggie Miller fan.
Yeah, who isn't? I mean, how could you not like the guy? And it's. And it sucks because all I did was watch Reggie Miller lose to the Bulls. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Well, and then Michael Jordan left, and then he was winning with the Bulls, against the Bulls. You know what I mean? Then he had his runs, and he lost to Kobe. So it was all these things. Every year was something different with Reggie, and that's what I was saying before, is that you attach yourself to players in basketball. There's so many LeBron fans that bought the Heat jersey, bought the Cavs jersey, bought the Lakers jersey, and it's because in the NBA, you're able to market yourself, where in other sports, you can't really do that. You know what I mean? If you look at the NBA logo, it's the only logo with an actual player on it. Every other sports logo is just a logo, and it sucks that the teams don't really push the individual, where the individual becomes as big of the team. And the thing is with basketball is that you're only 12 guys on the roster. In football, you're 53. In hockey, you're 23 plus a few scratches. In baseball, you're fucking God knows how many.
Yeah.
So you're able to be an individual, and you're able to shine, and that's what Jordan did. That's what Reggie Miller did. LeBron, Kobe, Shaq, I can't name you the starting lineup to the Lakers when I watched every single game when Kobe and Shaq were on the team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I could tell you Robert Horry was a part of that, but like I would never remember that if Robert Horry didn't win 6 championships and a few championships with the Lakers and the Spurs. You know what I mean? So it's the individual is more important than the team, I find, in basketball. And that's why I find when you talk about best player, Michael Jordan's teams were much better than LeBron's teams. The individual, if I take the individual versus the other individual, maybe Michael Jordan will win a one-on-one game because he's got that switch that nobody's going to fucking beat him.
Yeah.
But realistically, LeBron is probably a better basketball player than Michael Jordan is.
Do you think it has to do with the fact that he's bigger, stronger, all
faster.
of that? Faster?
He's probably about 50 pounds heavier. He's 2 inches taller. He plays the big man. He doesn't have a great shot from the outside, so everything he relies on is driving. Michael he has a defensive MVP award. LeBron doesn't have that, so Jordan might have the upper hand defensively, but that was back then. It's tough to compare eras, and that's the hard part that we're getting into. It's the best. It's like Lemieux, Gretzky, or LeBron and MJ. It's too tough to have. Too tough.
You know what I find too with basketball is that. And this is one thing that I started noticing, just learning with this documentary, is the importance of having someone as an icon for the sports itself, for the league itself. Like he constantly talks about it went from Bird, Magic, then it was basically him after.
Yeah, when Bird,
Right?
Magic, came Kobe, LeBron, I guess, right? Like,
Yeah.
but he says it in the show. He went, Bird gave it to Magic, Magic gave it to me.
See? And it's true, right? Like when they beat the Lakers in 91, that was like kind of the passing of the guard, right? Like you got it now. And then he went on and he won 2 other championships. Look, I guess if maybe I was born a bit later, or even probably if I was born a bit earlier, I'd probably be singing a different tune, right? Like if you talk to people that watch basketball in the 70s and 80s, they'll tell you either Bird or Magic Johnson, or even going back to Kareem and all these guys,
Kareem is
right?
somebody that nobody really talks about, but how many points did he score with no 3-point line? How many guys were even close to his level? You know what I mean? But he's also playing against, and I make this argument often, he's playing against guys that look like me, 5'9", white guys with good hair. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not playing against the rough and tough or some European guys that come across that know how to play defense.
Yeah.
Like, he's not playing against Luka. He's not playing against Dirk. He's not playing against Tim Duncan. You know, he was playing against fucking Joe Blows. You know what I mean? Jeff Hornacek. You know what I mean? Like, he's playing against those type of guys. And nothing against them, but the talent has gotten better. Every sport gets better throughout eras.
Do you think defensively? I think a lot of people will make the argument that when the Bulls were going through their run, and when Jordan was the best player in the world, he had to face tougher defensive guys than guys like LeBron and Bryant. Would you agree with that?
You're saying Jordan had to play against tougher Ds than LeBron did?
Yeah, individual players being better at defense.
Well, individual players, yes, but there's so many. The basketball has evolved so much. Like Phil Jackson said in episode 4, he introduced the triangle, right?
Yes.
And instead of playing iso ball, you're playing the triangle. So like defenses have evolved. You know what I mean? Eric Spoelstra is a defensive whiz, and that's why he helped bring LeBron, Bosch, and Wade to win their championship, because he knew how to organize defensively. Teams organized defensively, 5 guys against LeBron. Nobody was playing 5 guys against Jordan. Jordan was playing by himself, one-on-one, every single game. Then when Phil Jackson came in, he kind of introduced the system, the triangle system, right? And he showed it in the last episode, where how many times he had to kick it to Paxson, kick it to Kerr. And these guys were making the game-winning shots. It wasn't MJ. And that's nothing against Michael Jordan. He knew that other guys are going to have to step up.
Yeah.
And just to say that the system changed, and from there it started. And Phil Jackson he was the pioneer, and then it became what it is now, where systems are able to beat individual players, where back then you needed one guy to match up against another guy all the time.
I've always said that, like, if you look at a team that's a strong defensive team nowadays, it always has to do with the coaching style, right? Like the coach puts in place a defensive strategy or defensive style. Back then, like if you watch like the Pistons, like just give you an example, and when you had Rodman and you had all these big guys, you know, Lambeer under the thing, they played a different type of basketball. It was rough. They'll hurt you. They'll get after you, and they won't stop. They'll intimidate you. Defensively, they stifle you.
Yeah.
Now, because of obviously offensively, players are fucking just they're all super athletes, right? They move differently. They're bigger, stronger, faster. Now you have to have a defensive scheme. So, and then that becomes the responsibility of more of the coaching than the individual players, right? That's how I see it.
That's exactly it. You need it can't just be we get a guy in that knows how to run a system. We need a guy in that's going to be the expert at his system, you know, and a guy that's going to be able to take a bunch of nobodies and make ends meet with them. Where now there's so much talent across the board that you can take a decent coach, put him there, he'll make a run, but he won't be able to beat the heavy threes or the stacked teams with a good coach. You know what I mean? And that's what we didn't have back then. We had 3-4 good teams. If you talk about that era, the Jordan era, you probably had we had the Pistons, we had the Bulls, you had Houston with Hakeem Olajuwon.
Yeah.
In the West, I mean, Lakers were on their downfall.
The Cavs were a good team for a few years, though.
Yeah, but who did they have? Ron Harper?
Ron Harper and that other white dude there. The guy that Jordan shot over there. Elio? It's a weird name.
I don't know. But just to say,
Hilo, that's his name.
But just to say, when I was playing NBA Jam, I never chose the Cavs.
No, of course not.
You chose the Cavs. You know what I mean? You chose the Knicks because they had John Starks. You chose the Bulls because they had Michael Jordan. Yeah. You chose, I don't know. You chose anybody else. You chose
Magics because they had Penny Hardaway, right?
Penny Hardaway, exactly. Yeah. You chose Houston because they had Hakeem Olajuwon. Like, you chose everybody else except for the Cavs. So if you want to tell me that the Cavs were good back then, they were good because they were competitive. Yeah. But there was no way they're gonna beat the Jordan.
What? Well, after 92, 93, no one was beating the Bulls.
No.
94, after Jordan came back, and then they won 96, 97, 98. Like 97, they won 70 games that season.
Yeah.
I'm right. Like, that team was like, give me a break. Like Utah was strong, but
Malone, John Stockton, yeah.
Yeah, like man, the Knicks, but even the Knicks, right? Like, was
Patrick Ewing.
Yeah, what year did he retire? Like late 90s?
Early 2000s.
Right? Like, he was on his downfall, right?
Ewing, yeah, exactly. He wasn't. Ewing played college basketball. He was around the same time. He got drafted a year or two before Jordan did.
Yeah, he got drafted the year before Olajuwon, I believe.
There you go. Exactly. So
82, 83, or 83, 84.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But just to say is that there's been talent there, but nothing compared to what it is now. If you look at it now, I can name a star on every team, and back then you didn't have a star on every team.
You know what I find hard about that, though, is that a lot of it becomes very localized. What I mean is that a lot of stars in the NBA, the only people that know about him is whoever lives in that city.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. Or if you're a fan of that team, yeah.
Or if you're a fan of that team outside of the city, but like Doncic, for example, like, I'm just starting to discover who this guy is because I don't see him on TV. Like, they don't play those games a lot on TSN, right? Like, it's like I'm slow now. They're slowly, because the guy's a star. He's obviously a superstar. Like, he is a great player.
He's also 20 years old.
Yeah, but when you play in the same time as LeBron and I mean, we can start naming all these fucking players, and now you got guys like Zion coming in. Like, you got a bunch of new players. Like, sometimes you get lost in the shuffle, and then it's only when you retire where people start like appreciating really what you did for the team, or like how good you really were.
Yeah, it's 100% true. If I look at it, and the things about what Dallas does and Luka Doncic is what they do is that they have their eras. They know how to build their eras. They built it through Dirk. He passed it on to Luka. So now they always have somebody they can build a team around. Mm-hmm. Where some teams crash and then they rebuild. They crash and then they rebuild. So that right now, basketball it's at its best it's ever been.
Yeah,
it was good back then in the 90s with Jordan era. And it just became good probably like 4 years ago. Before that, I would never catch me watching a regular season basketball game. It'll never happen. And I'm a sports addict. You know what I mean? But if there's a playoff game now, I don't care who's playing. I'm watching it because it's good. There's parity. Where the NHL, I'm watching every game I can. Baseball, whatever, not so much. If it's the Mets are playing, I'll watch.
Yeah.
But just to say is that basketball, the regular season is basically useless now because you know who's going to make the playoffs. You have your 10 to 12 teams that are good, that are contenders. And then as the season goes on, you can kind of filter it down so you know there's going to be 5 or 6 teams that have a chance. And then as soon as you get in the playoffs, you know who's going to be in the finals. But the games are still good. Like Portland 2 years ago, they beat Houston. You know what I mean? They knocked off Houston. Like, that's crazy to me that one guy, well, 2 guys technically, Eric Robinson too, but they are able to knock off Houston and who Houston was, or James Harden, the reigning MVP. So basketball is fun to watch, but at the end of the day, it's still the most individualistic team sport where one guy can make or break your entire season. 100%.
I've always asked this question, and I think it's kind of related to the point you're making. Of all the 4 major sports, baseball, hockey, basketball, football, of all those 4 sports, basketball is probably the one that needs a coach less, right?
Yeah, I mean, every sport needs a coach, obviously.
Yeah, but what I mean is that the importance of the coach, like,
it's very small.
You have LeBron James on your fucking team. Yeah,
it's very small compared to hockey and football, and in football, the coach is just as important as the quarterback, and the quarterback is extremely important. That's why they get the most money. That's why they're always the number one pick. That's why it is what it is. It's the job to have. You know what I mean? And I was talking with I actually posted it on Hot Sauce the other day. As a friend of mine, Marco, who played in the CFL, and I asked him, what's the hardest position in sports? And he said quarterback, because there's so many things that you have to know, and you have to prepare 16 times a year, and you have to forget about everything you learned 2 days ago and prepare for the new week. And as soon as you prepare for that new week, that game's over, you win or lose, the next one comes in, and you have to forget about everything you learned. You have to prepare. There's so many small segments where in basketball, the star is on the court almost all the time. If he doesn't want to take a break, he doesn't have to take a break. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's on the court all the time. Where in football, the quarterback is only on the court on the field half of the game technically. So his margin for error is so much bigger than it is in basketball. Because in basketball, Jordan, if he makes a mistake, he can make it up again right away. Yeah. He can make a steal, block, come back, score 2 points, do whatever. But in football, if a quarterback makes a mistake, you're not going to see the ball for another maybe 8 minutes off the clock. You know what I mean? By the time the other team takes the ball, they drive, they score, they don't, whatever. So the margin for error is so much smaller than it is in football than it is in any other sport that you need a good coach and a good quarterback. And I find football is the toughest sport to be successful in because of that.
Well, if you look at coaching like Belichick, guys like that, like they always say that, right? You got to move on. You got to think to the next game because, like you said, as a quarterback, you're studying a team and a defense, and then once you get past that team, then next week you can have something completely different. I mean, not completely different, but not at all similar. Hi, where are you going? Hey, I'm busy. Can you come here later? Yeah, but I'm busy. Sorry.
It's all good. She was sneaking in.
That's you saw her before, right? I saw your face. I'm like, what the fuck is he looking at?
She was sneaking in. She opened the door quietly. She knew what she was doing.
I keep telling my wife she's fucking evil. She's like, stop it. I'm like, she's fucking evil, man.
I know, she's sneaky. I saw it in her eyes right there.
Dude, she taught herself how to ride her bike in 2 days, 2.5 days. Right. Like, it's crazy. She's like, nope, I don't want help. I just want to do this with my own.
I was watching your Instagram videos, the MMA classes you're doing, and she's picking everything up pretty quick.
Dude, really? Yeah. I was like, oh, what am I doing?
And even Caden, he's throwing those hooks and the kicks and stuff. He looks good.
He hits hard. Like he'll throw a kick and there's something about his bone. I don't know. He's dense. Like he'll throw a kick and I'm like, holy shit. Like if you can put some proper technique behind this, yeah, you'll be real good.
I think he's got that Portuguese density. You know.
Yeah.
But he's a tough kid. But I was impressed with her. You were showing her you were showing jiu-jitsu stuff the other day. I was laughing. Yeah. It was good.
It's funny. It's the jiu-jitsu stuff she picks up real fast. She pays attention to small details. Like on the stand-up, it takes a bit longer. The stand-up, what I find is when she starts, when she'll do something wrong, she knows right away she did something wrong, and she'll stop and she won't even ask, and then she'll just figure it out on her own. Then within 2-3 more reps, she's doing it right, and I didn't correct her, and I'm like, wow, that's fucked up, because normally you have to stop and correct them, but
yeah, usually they don't know, right? So
yeah, but she pays attention to her brother too.
Yeah,
right. Just when I'm doing it on him, right?
It reminds me because there was one kid in the draft, I forgot his name, but he was drafted in the first round, and he was saying is like how he didn't have any money for cleats and he never played football before, but they asked him, he's a big kid, and they asked him to come to the tryout, so he didn't know what to do, so he pinpointed the best player and he stood behind him in line every single drive, every single drill. So every time he saw him do something, he would copy it, and if he did something wrong, he would make sure not to do that. And then he's like, that's how I got used to football very quickly, and then from there it was. He's like, the first thing I did was I found the best player and I followed him.
It's fucking fun. To go back to the Last Dance, it's one of the things that why I love the Rodman episode yesterday. It's like, I've always been a huge fan of Rodman because, number one, because he's different on the court. He plays the game completely different than anybody else as well. And he was so good defensively and on rebounds. But I didn't know anything mostly about his background. I didn't know anything about his time in Detroit, really.
Yeah.
Because he was, to me, if I look back as a fan, I'd look back at him in Detroit. He looks so normal. He just looks like a regular player.
He wasn't Rodman yet.
Yeah. But the way I see him, like I was watching him yesterday, and I told my wife, I said, he reminds me of him, and like two guys I know. And I'm like, I used to play basketball with a guy. I said he used to play the game just like him.
Yeah.
Like, like it didn't matter how it looked, how he was going to get the ball, but when he rebounded, he was going to get the ball. And if nothing was going to stop him, or if it's something's going to stop him, he's going to figure out really, really fast for it not to happen again. But even the way he spoke, the way, like, you could tell he was just a guy that wanted to play basketball and then didn't want to be bothered when he just wanted to live his life the way he wanted to live his life outside of basketball.
Yeah. And he did it with intensity. And back then, you wouldn't be able to foul and play the way he played. I mean, that's another thing, too, is that MJ and these guys, they came up in an era where you can get punched in the face and nothing's going to happen to you. You know what I mean? Like, but now, if like you see it all the time with LeBron. He gets like kind of like clipped, and he's like, he pretends that he's really hurt and he's trying to keep his balance. It's so fake, you know what I mean?
It's and like soccer, like a little bit.
Almost, yeah. Except soccer players dive and they roll around like idiots, you know? But it's become a part of the game.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Strategy, right?
It's become a part of the game to the point where it's fucking annoying. But at the end of the day, what are you gonna do? It's basketball's evolved to that point. He's the best right now. But back then, you don't have any Rodmans like now. Who's the toughest guy in the NBA right now? Draymond Green. I mean, he plays like Rodman. He tries to compare himself to Rodman, but he's not even close.
Beverly.
Oh yeah, Patrick Beverly. Yeah, why not? He's tough. He mouths off. You know, he does
and
that
he's good
shit.
Defensively, right?
He's very good defensively.
He's not imposing enough. If Beverly was a bit bigger and taller, he would. I mean, the guy has a mouth on him, and he's good defensively, so he backs it up so he can talk that trash. But, like, you're right. Not even just Rodman, but I was watching have you seen the 30 for 30 on NC State?
North Carolina State?
Yeah, when they won the NCAA championship in 1982, I think.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
They were like underdogs all the way, right? They had to win the ACC tournament just to get in.
It sounds familiar.
It's also about Jimmy V, the coach.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I have seen it. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Every time it's on, I watch it. I just fucking love that 30 for 30. It's probably one of my favorites.
That's one of your favorites? My favorite is the Reggie Miller versus the Knicks.
Oh, yeah, that one too is good. Man.
Has to be my favorite. That one, the Ric Flair is a good one. Which other ones are good? The 42 to 1 odds, 42 to 1, which is it came up on TV the other day. It was Buster Douglas and Mike Tyson.
I caught the end. I was I'm like, oh fuck, it just ended.
Buster Douglas, that was a good one. There's a few. My 30 for 30, they do it well, you know. Really
Dude, I didn't even realize the other day I was looking through the list. They have over 100 of those. Like, they have a lot.
I know. And I always think, oh, it's a 30 for 30, but then I look, it's an E60. But sometimes, like, the 30 for 30, I look at them, I'm like, fuck, I never saw this. This is interesting, you know? So I'm going to try and catch it. But there's a lot there that I haven't seen.
You saw the one Notre Dame football against the University of Miami, too? They talk about how one of the guys from Notre Dame, he sells T-shirts. Okay. He makes T-shirts like bootleg, basically. It was because there was something about the Catholics versus the criminals, because University of Miami had all these fucking
all criminals.
It was like the 80s, right? It was like they all had these guys with the gold chains and the attitude. 80s, yeah. And they were feuding a lot with Notre Dame, which was a Catholic university, and it was very Anyway, it's a great one because the story is mostly around the guy that he did this shirt that he sold. He made thousands upon thousands of dollars, and every game he used to sell his T-shirts. Then they busted him. They busted him a few times.
What was the shirt?
He made a bunch, made different ones. Like, it was just like he bought a screen printing machine, and he would do them in his apartment on campus, you know, and he would sell them. They were sold out of the van, $20. He would have just rinky-dink shirts. They would sell out during the games. So it talks about that, but it also talks about the rivalry between the Miami and Notre Dame. Yeah,
that was a good. But I also saw the. I thought you were gonna say Notre Dame versus USC, but I also saw the Auburn versus Alabama. Did you ever see that one? Where there was a guy, the fan for Alabama, poisoned. Like, Auburn has this tree. That's like their tree. It's like the team, like the university mascot. Like, it's a famous tree. It's been there for thousands of years, and it's on the Auburn campus. and there was a fan from Alabama that poisoned it. And he says it's too. He says it's because I have too much Bama in me. Like I'm too much of an Alabama fan to not poison this fucking tree. And I don't think he killed the tree in the end. But anyway, you see like the whole rivalry, Auburn versus Alabama, and it goes all the way to Cam Newton. It's pretty fucking. It's cool. I liked it.
Wow.
Yeah. But 30 for 30, they find these weird angles and they go to it. Like Radiolab does the same thing. Radiolab, they find like a little small story and then they dive right into it and they expand it.
Yeah, they blow it up and they look at everything, single breakdown of all the things. Yeah.
There's too much stuff to watch.
Fuck, man. But even my wife, like, she didn't watch the first 2 episodes. But yesterday I said, I'm going to watch this. She's like, yeah, she was on her phone the most time. But, like, it ended. She's like, when the new one come out? Is that
fuck.
it? I'm like, no, it's Sunday. She's like, all right. She's like, what she said was that it's extremely well made.
Yeah.
Like, the documentary, like, I like how obviously they're telling a story of that season, but they did the thing on Pippen and then they did the thing on Rodman, and it all follows the storyline, and so they're able to go back.
Well, they explain everybody's piece, right? Everybody.
Yeah.
I love the Phil Jackson story. So far, it's been my favorite part. I didn't know he was like this hippie, does yoga. He did acid. He was. I didn't know he was a all rookie. I didn't know he even played in the NBA. He's a very interesting character to me. Very interesting.
I knew about the yoga because I remember it in the media when I was watching the Bulls in the 90s, and I remember him talking about that, how he was different in that way. But all the rest of the stuff, I knew he played for the Knicks. But here's an interesting thing in sports that I think, like, this guy has won at every level he's ever been involved with the basketball. He won at NCAA.
Yeah.
He won in the NBA. As a player, and as a assistant coach, and as a coach.
Assistant coach where?
Oh no, he didn't win as an assistant coach. Sorry.
Maybe he did. Maybe he did somewhere else. I just don't know.
Fuck, what?
Because he was brought in to be an assistant, from what I saw.
Oh, he won in the ABA. He went to Puerto Rico. That's where he got his first coaching gig.
Amazing.
And I believe they won there. I'm not sure, but he came to the ABA. And he won his first 2 out of 3 years. First 3 years, he won the championship there, and then he was hired as an assistant coach, and then he started winning with the Bulls. Like, the guy is a champion at every single level of basketball he's ever played in his life.
Yeah,
and that has to play a huge factor in determining, like, what is it that makes him such an amazing coach? Because when I saw the footage, I was like, that guy is the type of coach I would love, because it's not all about the game. It's about making sure the team is one. Like, everybody understands the purpose of playing together.
The Phil Jackson, he has this way of, like you said, playing together, bringing people and establishing their role individually and how it's going to affect the team. And that's a sign of a good coach. A good coach never caters to the individual. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what Jerry Krause was trying to do. If you watch the documentary, Jerry Krause was trying to say, listen, the team is bigger than the player, but when you have the best of all time, you don't alienate him like that. You don't say that you don't diminish what he did. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
And Phil Jackson was more of his boy, and it worked out because Phil Jackson had that same mentality, except he knew how to personify. He knew how to show it. Where he talks about when he met Dennis Rodman, you know, and he was able. And Dennis Rodman didn't stand up to shake his hand, and he's like, "Listen, we're gonna go outside. Take off your hat. Let's go outside." And like he has like this calm demeanor about him, which most good coaches do. And the same thing in hockey. Hockey coaches, the ones that explode all the time, aren't the most successful ones. John Tortorella, he used to be a fucking loose cannon. Now he's super successful because he calmed down. Yeah. You know what I mean? Mike Keenan too. He was never successful. I mean, he was always a good coach, but because he never got the players to play for him, he was never really successful. He got lucky that one year they won a Stanley Cup with Messier because Messier was on fire that year. But for the most part, you know, players don't respond well to an asshole, you know, or to a guy that calls you out all the time.
I played for an asshole once, and I get why people don't like playing for guys like that, guys that blow up and that are, because when you're a player on that team, you see that and you go, that guy puts himself in front of the team.
Yeah.
Like this is his ego right now doing this blowing up and making a show in front of everybody. He's not doing this. He's not going to bat. He's not going to war for his team. He's being loud and obnoxious for himself. Like, look at me. I'm a former player. I used to be good, and now I'm a good coach.
Yeah.
Like,
But you
I
also
saw
have
that
to find
right
the middle.
yeah.
You have to find the middle part, right? Where you can't be too laid back either.
Oh no, of course. I mean, I think you have to be firm. Like, people need to believe. Like, as a guy that's coached sports before, like, even if it's just kids, like kids, it's harder because they're all over the fucking place. But if you can get someone to believe in what you're saying and what you're applying, either by example or by what you're saying, they'll play for you. They'll be like, yep, that okay, and it's working, so I'm gonna listen to what this guy's saying, right?
There's guys that you hear the term all the time. I'd run through a brick wall for that guy because you know that guy would do the same for you.
Yeah.
And that's what it is.
It's hard to find in sports now, right? Like,
yeah.
Especially young. You know what I like about? I don't know say if I like it or not. What I notice about basketball is that because like you said, you have 11 players on the team. And if you're playing on a team that has a LeBron James, Anthony Davis, there's really 2 players. And they build the bench around these 2 guys so that when these 2 guys come out, we can hold that team for a few minutes until
just enough, yeah.
Right? But I forgot where I was going with this. I think the stardom of the stars, like, I don't know what it is, but the culture or society, but like basketball, like it's more like hip, trendy, like to be a basketball star, right? So when these young kids realize that they have such a huge following and such a huge impact, they'll be like, motherfucker, like LeBron James, like there's no one that's going to tell him what he can or cannot do either on or off the court. He's at that point in his life.
Yeah,
or
it's true.
At his career, I mean, right?
It's true. I mean, you can't, but also if you like, I'll always go back to the documentary because you saw deep right into the locker room and into the huddle, is that you saw how MJ bought into a system where before he's like, I can do it all myself. I just need somebody to give me some support for like 18 minutes a game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'll do the rest myself. And you saw how he really embraced Phil Jackson because Phil Jackson has that calm demeanor. Listen, I know what I'm doing. Give it a chance. Like let's build on this. And kudos to him. You rarely see stars do that. I mean, LeBron James did it. He did it in Miami. I feel like he won his championships in Miami. So when he went to Cleveland, he's like, no, this is my team. I'll do what I want, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But most athletes, the best ones, buy into systems. But you can't buy into a system if your coach is not up to snuff. If he's not good enough. And Phil Jackson was good enough. Popovich is another example. Popovich is won how many championships in San Antonio? 3? I want to say 3.
5.
2 or 3.
No?
In San Antonio? 5?
But they've won 5. Has he not be coached?
If they won 5, it's because he won them all. So
yeah, they've won 5. I believe.
Okay. So just to say, is that Greg Popovich has that too. He's a very liberal guy. He's very calm, but he respects your player and he wants him to respect you too. And he was able to develop 5 Hall of Famers. You know what I mean, including Kawhi Leonard. So these are the reasons why these guys are successful in basketball, because they have a guy that they can rely on. And if these teams don't have a guy that they can rely on, they're fucked. And that's what it comes down to. Every team that blows up, that loses it in the finals, it's because of one, coaching, because the other team was outcoaching them. Warriors, you can say whatever you want about the Warriors. They had Kevin Durant, okay, fine. But Steve Kerr is a good fucking coach.
He is.
He's able to take 4 stars, 4 future potentially Hall of Famers, defensive MVPs, MVPs, scoring champions, all-stars, every single one of them. He's able to take them all and buy into the system, and it worked well together. And that's what it comes down to, coaching.
What I find Kerr does well is that he's able to make the others adapt to everyone else's style of playing.
Also,
right?
The thing about Kerr is that his style of play is perfect for today. Like back then, he was like a complimentary kind of guy. Where today, he'd probably be a fucking all-star every year. because he's able to shoot from anywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why Curry really developed under him, because Curry is able to shoot from anywhere. And he's really changed the way basketball is played, Steph Curry. But it's because of a guy like Steve Kerr, who knows how to play that ball, who knows how to play like that. You have one guy down low that's able to rebound and able to block, and then you have everybody else on the outside. Everybody else is on the outside. Clay and Steph Curry are on the outside looking for that ball. So Steve Kerr was able to develop that, and he developed it perfectly at the right time, right when basketball was changing. They were moving away from the big men. Houston doesn't even have a center on the roster.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The game has changed completely because of guys like Steve Kerr.
They play small ball almost all the time.
Yeah, and it reminds me of
exclusively.
Yeah, it's like in Europe. My friend Alex always tells me, I love Euro ball, like swinging around, spacing, taking shots, and he's like, that's like an ideal basketball for him. It's fun to watch, but you always want to see that big guy like Shaq down the fucking middle, just dominating people, just bullying people, and I like to see that kind of play. But to each his own.
I think you're starting to see players that have the same impact as a Shaq, but with like crazy abilities, like a Zion. Like, if I look at Zion, I won't lie, I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. I'm probably 99%. Like, the first time I saw him, I'm like, that guy is never going to last in the league. He's built different. He's built weird, but I saw him move for the first time. I was like, oh, okay. All right. But what I find he does well is that he'll sit back, and he's so good at picking the moment where he needs to explode.
This is Zion?
Yeah. Like his first
he's
step
never going to be a scoring leader.
No.
I don't think he will, but he'll be an all-star almost every year. But
you don't think he's going to be a scoring leader?
I don't see him being able to play a full season if he doesn't lose a shitload of weight.
Oh yeah, okay, maybe that way.
You know what I mean? And that's going to hurt him. And he's great, but he should have, the time where he was injured, he didn't lose any weight. You know what I mean? He should have at least lost like 10 to 15 pounds.
Yeah.
And that's just more of like, he's young, he's learning how to work out, how to play and things like that, and nursing an injury too. But he's going to have to figure it out because he weighs like almost 300 pounds. To run up and down a court for, you're not playing for the full 60 minutes, but you're playing fucking, 35 minutes, 30 minutes a game. Your knees are going to get fucked. Absolutely.
That's a lot of weight to be carrying around on a basketball court for fucking, like you said, like he's gonna be the superstar. They're gonna ask a lot of that guy. It's weird because one day I'll be like, these guys are gonna win 3-4 championships, and then the other day I'll be like, maybe they won't win anything.
Well, in New Orleans? Yeah. I think they have one in them because I like Lonzo Ball. Zion could be a star. I mean, he already is a star. I think they have one championship in them. Just kind of like Houston with Hakeem Olajuwon. I think they'll have one championship in them. They'll have a good run. They might sign like an older guy just to kind of like be a complimentary kind of guy. And they'll get it done. I like Lonzo Ball a lot. I think Lonzo Ball in a secondary role is better than Lonzo Ball in a primary role.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The way he plays, like I watched him play because when he got drafted and everybody was talking shit about him and then he got traded he got traded. Yeah, I was like, oh, well, I guess he wasn't that good, right?
Yeah.
But then I watched a lot of New Orleans games because a lot of them were already booked on TSN. So last year I watched some games and I'm like, motherfucker, that guy can play basketball. Like whatever role they have him in with the Pelicans, dude, he can ball like big time. Like
he's not a shooter, but
he
sets it up. He sets up the plays very well. And his little brother, Melo, is much better, apparently. Everybody says that he's going to be first overall pick for sure, and he's going to be a star right away. Because that kid can shoot from anywhere.
And he's been playing with adults for the last 2 years, no?
2 years. He's been playing in Europe,
right? Yeah.
So he's been playing in Europe and Lithuania. Where Lithuania, like, don't fuck around. How many Lithuanians do you know play basketball? And any of them in the NBA, and any of them in the NBA, they're all big guys. So
big and strong.
Yeah. So hopefully it resonates and he's able to make a career out of it. But we'll see.
He's getting drafted next year?
2021. Yeah. So he has one more year left. Because I think he's 17 right now.
And he's the last. No, they have another one, right?
So there's 3 already. There's Lonzo, then there's
Melo.
No, Melo's the youngest one.
Okay.
I think they call him Jello. I don't know what his name is. It's a middle name. He's the one that got arrested in China for shoplifting. He was playing at UCLA.
Yes. Okay.
And he's the middle one. He's not that good.
Okay, I thought that was Melo. Okay, I got him
No, Melo's
confused.
the younger one with the blonde hair, the blonde afro. His videos were everywhere. He's the reason why the Ball brothers became famous, because there were so
Really?
many. Yeah, there were so many highlights of him online on YouTube, and then people were like, "Who are these ball guys? Ball guys? Ball guys?" And then finally, people started watching UCLA, and they saw Lonzo and Jello, and I think it's Jello. They call him D'Angelo. It could be D'Angelo, and so they started watching them, and then but basically started from watching Melo as a 14-year-old beat 18-year-olds one-on-one, shooting from anywhere.
Good. I can't wait to see these guys. This guy.
And another thing I was asking about Last Dance is that why wait 22 years to release this thing? If they had all the footage, like it's fucking 20 years later.
Yeah, it's Michael Jordan.
It's weird. Smart.
He owned that footage. It wasn't the team.
Yeah.
He brought in his own camera crew, I believe. He's like,
Yeah.
you guys are going to document my last thing. They did the same thing for Kobe Bryant, I believe, did the same thing for his last season.
Which I'm very interested in watching too. And apparently Dwayne Wade is doing he's producing a movie on the Redeem Team, which is
Yes,
like
2008.
Yeah, the 2008
team.
Olympic team, which I'm actually writing an article about it now, is that it's not that good, that team. Like, it's a good team, but don't fucking, like, they're trying to compare it to the Dream Team. It's not even close to being the Dream Team.
No.
No way. They had, the starting roster was Kobe, LeBron, and Dwayne Wade, right? Then
Yeah.
you had Carmelo Anthony in his prime, which is
Yeah.
sick. And then you had Dwight Howard in his prime. That was your starting five. And then you had Michael Redd. You had Deron Williams, who was sick. You had Tayshaun Prince, who was pretty good back then. Who else did they have? They had a few good players, but nothing really crazy. With the Dream Team, they was all first-round picks the entire way through, all Hall of Famers. Like, no doubt. Even fucking Christian Laettner.
Like, that team was, like, stacked to the gills, like, big time. Yeah, I heard about that Dwayne Wade documentary. But I heard that they recorded the Kobe's last season. I don't know why Jordan sat on that footage for a long time. I think maybe a part of it. Maybe he was like, the longer I wait, the more money this is gonna fucking wait. Like, But he gave the okay in 2016 for them to start putting it together. Can you imagine the amount of footage? Like, I'm amazed. Like, they have everything,
Everything. They have everything in the bus, in the plane, in the huddles. They got full access, man. It's rare. You never see that. How many teams do that?
Do you think, maybe you know this, but like in the NFL, NBA, whatever major sports, like, do you think that teams do document most things now because they know maybe if this can be future documentary?
I mean, I think that a lot more teams have more cameras all around. Like, I like to watch. I'm not even a Cleveland Browns fan, and I like to watch this thing on their YouTube page called Building the Browns, where they have every offseason they have like 10 episodes of like behind the scenes. It's kind of like a Hard Knocks kind of thing, but just for the Browns. Yeah, and they show all the general managers, they show the assistants, they show everything, and I love watching that shit. I'm not even a Browns fan, and I like watching that stuff. So it's more commonplace now where you see guys, teams with cameras everywhere, just documenting everything, just so they can have the content, so they can put it out there, which is great for us. I mean,
Canadians do that too, right? With 24CH or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that still a thing, or
it is still a thing? And the Bruins do Behind the B. Like, there's a lot of teams that do that, which is amazing. I love it.
It's great because in the future, if they ever wanted to do a documentary on a 2-3 year run, they could just we have all the footage. We just need to put it together, right?
Yeah,
and just have the guys sit down and talk about that time. Like,
I'd love to see one on the Chicago Blackhawks when they won their 2 out of 3 years Stanley Cups.
Yeah,
I would love to see one on that because they had so many characters. They had Patrick Kane, Seabrook, Keith, Crawford. Who else? They had Jonathan Taves, obviously. Joel Quenneville is a fucking nutcase. Like, I'd love to see a documentary on those guys because they built their team through the draft, and then they had all these young guys, these fucking studs, and they're able to win. I love that shit.
Yeah,
love to watch that.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy watching a team that When's the last time you've seen a team rebuild and actually be successful? Like, I enjoy watching that, like an actual rebuild, like Pittsburgh Penguins, right?
Yeah, the Warriors, Golden State Warriors.
Golden State Warriors. Yeah, the Warriors were. Yeah, they went through a stint when in the mid 2000s they were somewhat good, but nothing. They went. Yeah, they were
when they
garbage.
lost Mullen. Who else played for them? Did Gary Payton play for them at one point? I don't know, but they didn't really have anybody, and they never really had like a star. And then they just built through the draft: Clay, Draymond, and Curry, and then built around that. I'd like to see something like that, like see what their mindset was, and because you have to have the entire organization buy in, right? So it'd be interesting.
That and any veteran players that you bring in, like a lot of guys, I know in hockey it might be a little bit more prevalent where guys that haven't won championship are looking for that opportunity at the end of their career, right?
Yeah, like Ray Bourque.
Yeah.
Ray Bourque going from Boston to Colorado to win a Stanley Cup, and he does it, you know.
And you have other guys that tried it, like Iginla, that didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work really. I mean, it happens a lot more than we realize, but we just don't remember them because it doesn't really pan out. Because one player would never fix your problems, and it's usually if a guy at the end of his career, I don't see what the advantage is, you know.
So yeah, of course, yeah. I know what you mean. But Bourque was still a fucking good player when Colorado brought him in, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so
for sure.
But it like now with the like I was telling my wife this last week because we actually watched the NFL draft. Well, I watched it and she was on the couch and she was actually asked. She's like, "Do you normally pay attention to this shit?" I'm like, this is the first year where I've been paying attention to the draft, probably because there's no sports and I'm stuck at home. But I said I actually know a lot of these players drafted in the first round because they've been doing a lot of fucking TV and talking about them a lot.
Yeah,
and. It goes back to what I was saying about rebuilding. Like I watch like if I look at, I don't know why I have a feeling about this fucking Burrow guy, but I believe that guy is a winner through and through.
I don't. I mean, I think
so?
I think he's a good player. I just don't think that the comparisons to like Tom Brady and stuff are valid.
I haven't really heard the comparisons, but there's something about someone. The way he spoke, but also the way he was talking about, he's never been on a losing team ever from the first time he played sports. You know, right? And
which is something to say for the kid, you know,
for the kid, but also for the mentality that he has. Like he has a winning mentality. Like when I coach young kids, there's one thing that's hard to get them to care for, which is weird, but it's getting them to care about winning, about actually winning at certain age. Like I actually would ask my players, like, who gives it? Well, I wouldn't ask them like this, but who gives a shit about winning? Yeah. A lot of them would be like, I don't care. I'm just here to play and have fun, which obviously it's good. Right. You want to enjoy, play the game, but there's that killer instinct sometimes that you look for. And I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about it, but I find it weird that he was the obvious number one draft pick, but no one spoke about him.
Who, Joe Burrow?
They spoke about all the other players and mostly Tua and all this guy, right? But like they were so sure that he wasn't even like, I saw a lot more pieces on like Chase Young and all these guys than Joe Burrow. They were like, yeah, he's just number one, right?
Yeah, he's just that's what I'm saying. Is like he's the franchise guy. They only started talking about him like when towards the end of the season when they kind of went on their run right before they won the national championship. He became who he is. Did you lose me?
No, I think I'm good.
Weird, because I don't see myself anymore.
You don't?
No, it's good. It's good. We're good. Yeah. So he only became super famous like towards the end, and everybody's like, okay, who's gonna? The closer you get to the draft, the more you start to see like these names come up where you're like, oh, is he good enough? If you don't really watch every game, is he good enough? Everybody knew who Tua was because of the year before. The thing about college going to the NFL, it's always what have you done for me lately? And it's kind of the same thing in basketball too. In March Madness, you have to do well in the tournament to be one of the best, right? And with Joe Burrow is that he was so good for LSU. He won the Heisman. He won the national championship. Now he's the first overall pick. He deserved to be the first overall pick.
For sure.
And that's what it is. Do you earn that name, number one? Do you earn that position? And he earned it, and that's what it came down to. And it's not necessarily that they didn't give him credit, is that Tua had earned it the year before, but he wasn't eligible. If he entered the draft, he probably would have been the first overall pick the year before.
And if he didn't get injured, he would have been the number one draft pick this year.
Most likely.
Yeah.
But I think that Cincinnati took Joe Burrow because he's from Ohio.
Yeah.
He probably fits their style a little bit better than Tua does. There's a lot of factors in that too. I mean, I don't hate the pick. I just think that if they drafted Chase Young, number one overall, would have helped them more than Joe Burrow. But they probably see Joe Burrow as like a 4-year project where they'll build a team around him completely. And I love the way they drafted. They drafted T. Higgins in the second. They drafted Logan Wilson in the third, and I love Logan Wilson. He's a crazy linebacker, old school, tape on his fingers, no gloves. Love that shit.
Nice.
And so they did it well. Cincinnati drafted extremely well.
Also, a lot of the drafts, the first few picks, you draft a lot by position as well, right? It's what your team really needs.
Yeah, the
right?
first
Unless
5 picks
you have a superstar and pick, you can't pass him up, right? No matter the position.
Yeah.
But like Chase Young was second because Cincinnati, they knew you were going to pick a quarterback. They were going to pick Burrow and but really Chase Young is probably the most talented football player in that draft.
In the draft, probably in a few years, I think he's one of the best
players
one of the best.
Everybody talks about how he's a future Hall of Famer. Like, it's insane.
He is a future. Well, I mean, if he doesn't fuck it up, but he is a future Hall of Famer. I mean, I see him now as a guy who's gonna be able to lead the league in sacks, be an All-Pro, rebuild the Washington defense. They can build around him for a few years. It's scary for me as a Cowboys fan because he's probably going to kill Dak Prescott, But just to say is that you can't get that type of player at any point. That's why I thought he was the number one pick. Where if the Bengals took him and then waited in the second round to draft or even signed a guy in free agency like Cam Newton, somebody like that.
Yeah.
And they still have Andy Dalton there. They're still paying him money. I mean, he's still a starter in the NFL. He might even start this season. I don't think they're going to start Joe Burrow right away. I mean, if they do, good for him. I think it's a mistake if they do because he's going to get killed by Baltimore. He'll probably get killed by Cleveland. Then he's got to play Pittsburgh. It's going to be too much for him to handle. Give him a year. And if Andy Dalton does well, trade Andy Dalton or let him build up his numbers, and then you can send him off and he can make money somewhere else. But I think that I mean, personally, I'm not in the huddle. I'm not in the fucking room, so I don't know. But personally, I would have taken Chase Young. I think Chase Young is a generational talent that you can't get, or you can get a Joe Burrow next year.
Do you think Tua is going to pan out?
I don't think Tua is going to pan out. I don't think Tua is going to play more than 5 full seasons. I think he'll be injured. He's already way too injured. He doesn't have the pro style. You know what I mean? He's a smaller guy. Compare him to Russell Wilson. I don't see him as Russell Wilson. He's played behind a huge offensive line his entire career. Okay.
Yeah.
He's played at a top level, which I will grant him for sure. He's a great player, but I don't think that he's the answer to Miami's problems. But we'll see. I don't work in scouting, so I don't know. I can only go with the 3-4 games that I saw of Alabama this year and last year. So
they always talk about his decision making. He's got great decision making skills, and that's what lacks in a lot of young players. It's one of the things that they have a hard time developing and getting better and faster about that shit, right? Decision making. You don't want to rush when you want to look at all your options before you throw the ball away or before you make a pass. I don't know. I obviously I don't know as much as you in football, but I've been following it a lot because of the draft, and I've gotten to know a lot of different players, and that's why I was extremely interested in this draft because the talent I saw in the first round. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean that might be one of the best first round in a long time, or am I wrong?
It was really good, and it was really stacked. There was about 50 first round talents this year, I think.
Wow.
Obviously, you can only have 32, but there was 50 first-round talents this year. And you couldn't make a mistake in the first round. If you made a mistake in the first round, then you get fired. Because there's so much good talent out there that you really can't fuck it up. There was so many DBs, so many receivers, so many offensive linemen, linebackers out the ass. There was no way you'd fuck this up. And some of the guys that I had high on my board dropped to late in the first. Like a guy like Patrick Queen, he got drafted by the Ravens at like 28. And to me, he was the best linebacker in the draft, ahead of Isaiah Simmons. And he played for LSU, dominated. And I thought that he would go earlier, but he didn't. And he fell to the Ravens. And when you get picked by a team in the 28th spot, it means that's a team that's still good. So, so he's going to be successful. You know what I mean? When you get picked in the top 10, it's because chances are your team sucks. You know what I mean?
I'd rather get picked in the late first round than in the early first round, right?
Oh, it's a big difference in money, though.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Big difference in money. Like the first overall pick gets a lot more money than the third overall pick.
It's like 10 million, right?
I'm not sure, but it's a lot. Yeah. Wow. That's why it's very important for them to get drafted, or else people will be like, no. Like Joe Burrow could have easily said, no, don't draft me. Like I don't want to go to Cincinnati. I want to go to Miami or wherever.
Yeah.
If you draft me, I'll ask for a trade. So what they bargained was in the new CBA is that they bargained for better contracts. So players would want to be drafted by the worst team because they're going to get more money out of it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it makes sense. CD Lamb.
Love him.
Right?
Love him.
What the fuck, man? I love that guy. I started finding out about him during the championship season in NCAA because Bama. He's a Bama, right? Am I wrong?
Oklahoma. He played
Who's
with
the Bama guy then?
Oh, you're talking
Ruggs?
Ruggs, Henry Ruggs.
Ruggs. Okay.
He got drafted by the Raiders.
Yeah. But CD Lamb.
Same style.
Yeah, dude. He's long. He's physical. Man, he plays. I thought that was a great pickup. That was like
for him to fall to 17 was shocking because there was 2 or 3 receivers that were taken ahead of him, and he was probably the number 1 ranked receiver in the draft. So for the Cowboys to fall, the Cowboys weren't going to draft a receiver in the first round. But it's the same thing that happened with Dez Bryant a few years ago, well, probably like 10 years ago, is that Dez Bryant wasn't picked. So when he fell to the Cowboys like, we can't not draft this guy. He's too good. And that's what happened this year. They wanted to draft a safety. They wanted to draft Xavier McKinney out of Alabama, the safety. Yeah. He's a big hitter, good player. And they didn't draft him. They drafted CeeDee Lamb because he fell right to them. And it's like, fuck this shit. We're going to take him. We're going to have Michael Gallup, Mari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Zeke Elliott, Dak Prescott. Tell me there's a scarier offense in the NFL right now. And
it's insane.
Yeah. And with their offensive line, it's huge for him, and it's big for him too because he's going to a team that's going to contend, and he's going to get the ball.
He falls in the number 3 slot now.
He'll be a number 3, but the way they run their offense, the number 2 and the number 3 are interchangeable almost. So it's like it all depends on how they're going to use him. Think about Michael Gallup. He's the second receiver. He's more of a stretch guy, where CeeDee Lamb is like a possession receiver. It's what he does after the catch that's impressive. He'll catch the ball at 5 yards and take it for 35. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens. We'll see how he can. Did you see his the video that went viral with him with his girlfriend? I had posted it. How too funny is that?
She took the fucking phone and he took it away.
God. Yeah, but it's not as funny as Isaiah Wilson's. Isaiah Wilson was a guy who got drafted by the Titans, an offensive lineman. His girlfriend was sitting on his lap. Okay, he's this big offensive lineman. He's crying, whatever.
The white chick?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and she sits on his lap, and then his mom, or we think it's his mom, comes and takes her and throws her off. It was classic. I love that shit.
Oh shit! Yeah,
that's why the draft was good this year because there were so many of these little stories. You know what I mean? Another thing with the draft, they're so stupid, is that like T. Higgins, I mentioned him earlier. In his description on the screen, they had all pro, all SEC, whatever he was, and then the third line was his mother was a drug addict.
For real?
Yeah. Or they had one guy, I forgot what his name was. They put was accused of sexual assault, acquitted of sexual assault. Why put it up there?
What?
How stupid can these people be? They're a joke. They're a joke.
Wow.
It's like they don't have anything else to put. Don't put anything. Put that he likes to watch freaking Pokemon. Put something else.
Yeah, look, I've never been so interested in a draft before. I don't know if it had to do with the fact that I was stuck at home and there's the only sport that I get to watch or sports related news that I get to watch. But I saw a lot of fucking talent. I saw a lot of guys, even in the second and third round, that I was paying attention to, like online, like talk about, like if I tune in in the afternoon and turn it on, they'd still be talking about this. The third round, he just got picked, and I'd be like, they're all talking about how everybody in the second round was a steal, or everybody in the third round was a steal, and I was like, what the fuck?
Like I mentioned, Xavier McKinney, that safety. I don't remember where he got. He got drafted by the Giants in the second round. So the Cowboys lose out on him. They don't draft him. They needed a safety every fucking year. The Cowboys say they need a safety. They don't draft, and then Xavier McKinney falls to the Giants, and he gets picked by them. And that was in the second round. He's a first-round talent. So he's a steal to me. You know what I mean? If he's going to be your second, third pick in the draft, that's a fucking steal. So there was a lot of stories like that. You're right. I liked this year. This year was good. And the only thing I didn't like is that why does Roger Goodell have to announce all the picks? Like, he's the worst person to announce these picks.
Horrible.
He's so boring. I've never seen anybody that has less, like, sex appeal than Roger Goodell. And he's an awful human being. Awful. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand watching.
It should be the individual team that announced their players. No, you don't think it would be better?
That's the thing. I was talking to the guys on our Hot Sauce episode this week, and they were saying, and they had a good point, is that you can't risk like a microphone being on in a room where they're strategizing on who they're gonna pick. You can't risk the feed going down or something like that. So, I mean, I get that, but maybe have somebody that's ready that can just call in and say the pick, and they have the guy's picture available, and it's like the GM saying, like, it's a phone call, and on the screen is Xavier McKinney example. Do you see him? And we're taking Xavier McKinney the 29th pick, whatever it was, you know. So I mean, I liked the way they did it this year. It ran extremely well. I always thought being at the draft for a player was stupid. Like, if I was in the NFL, I'll go in the NFL, I would be at home with my family. You know, I'd have a draft. Yeah. Wouldn't be in New York sitting in a suit, you know, like an uncomfortable on a fucking dinner table, you know, like it's stupid.
It's not personal. It's like you're being paraded around as
I'd rather be with my parents or, you know, family, girlfriend, you know, all that stuff.
Fuck. As a Steelers fan, I have to ask, what do you think about their draft?
I didn't like it at all.
Really?
Yeah. So the thing about the Steelers is that they needed, not that I didn't like it at all. I think it was good enough, but it wasn't good to the point where they didn't have a first round pick. They only started with a second, and I forgot who they took.
Chase Claypool.
They took the Canadian. Chase Claypool. Yeah. Chase Claypool. If they didn't draft him, they're actually, I did a whole breakdown. If you on Hot Sauce Sports, I wrote an article. It's AFC North, and I broke down the Steelers. If they didn't draft Chase Claypool, their draft would have gone to shit, I think. And like, he was good because he's fucking good, and I think he's a big sleeper in the draft too. And then they needed more help. They needed offensive line help. They needed because they have a few guys that are up on contracts, like Villanueva and stuff like that. Yeah. So. I mean, I liked their draft. I just thought that they should have traded up to help out the offense a little bit, you know. Did they draft J.K. Dobbins too in the third, the running back?
No, Anthony McFarland.
Anthony McFarland. That's a nice pick.
Yeah.
So it's not bad, you know. It's tough to say when I see other teams that did so well. It's hard for me to say that the Steelers had a good draft when I compare them to other teams. But if I look at them individually, yeah, it was a decent draft. I think I'll tell you right now, actually, what I gave them. I forgot what the score I gave them was.
Who did the Dolphins pick with their number one pick at 18?
At 18, no, they took Tua.
Yeah,
they took an offensive lineman.
Because one of those picks, one of those three picks they had in the first round was the Steelers pick.
So I gave the Steelers a B, a B rating.
Yeah.
But it was nice. I like the way they drafted. Who did the Dolphins take, actually? It's a good question. They took Tua.
I thought they took was it a linebacker? No, it's not a linebacker.
They took Tua. It was all offense in the first round. They took an offensive line. They took a tackle, and they took a receiver. I want to say receiver. Fuck, man, I'm trying to blank here. I have to look. I have to check this up.
Do you think the first round draft pick was worth it, though, for the Steelers? Because they got a great player last year.
Who did they trade for the first round?
Miami.
So that 18. Oh, yeah, Mika Fitzpatrick.
Fitzpatrick, yeah.
The thing is with that is that I like Mika Fitzpatrick. You know, I like them a lot. So for me, it's tough to say that it was good because you don't know what the player you're getting is. You know what I mean? And it's extremely hard for me to say, was it a good trade until I see what that pick, if he panned out or not, you know? I'm checking right now to see who they
They
took.
they took Austin Jackson, offensive tackle at 18.
Yeah,
And they took cornerback Noah.
Oh,
don't
yeah.
ask.
This guy, I didn't really know too much of him.
Auburn.
I'd only seen maybe one Auburn game this year, so I didn't really know him too much. But from what they said he's one of the top corners in the draft. Cool, but I didn't really know too much of him, so I couldn't really tell you. But from what everything I read about him after, he's a good player. So the thing is that you can't draft the biggest name either. You have to draft guys that you know are going to do well. Mike Mayock did that last year. Like, he drafted Clinton Farrell, and nobody had him going where he went. But he's become the leader of the Raiders defense. So for him, it's like, if you draft guys that you know are going to fit your system, then do it. Draft the guy that you think is going to fit your system, your need. Don't draft the best guy available all the time.
That's the thing, right? And it goes back to what I said earlier. Like, sometimes you need someone at a position, so you're gonna be like, I'm gonna draft the position before I draft the superstar or whatever best player that's on the board left.
That's it, exactly.
It happens a lot in football.
Unless it's like a crazy player that should have been drafted 10 picks ago, and he wasn't, and he falls right to your hands, you know. But I love this draft this year. It was good.
It was fun. It's fun to watch. I like it.
Chase Claypool was nice. Chase Claypool is like, he's a big kid too. He's like 6'2". He's over 200 pounds. He's a big kid. I think he's gonna do good for them.
It's good. They need help on offense. Big Ben's coming back, so hopefully, look, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know if he has 2, maybe 3 more years, but
1 year.
Huh? 1 more? Yeah.
I think this is the year, and they'll probably draft the quarterback next year.
They have to, right? What do you think about the Packers drafting Love?
So I don't hate it. I just don't understand it, because there's a stat that I saw somebody sent me today was Aaron Rodgers has only thrown a touchdown pass his entire career once to a first-round pick.
Yeah, I saw that.
How fucked up is that?
That's insane, right?
Give him some options. Give him some weapons. They're relying on Devontae Adams, which is fine. Rely on your number one receiver. But help the guy out. Draft somebody on offensive line maybe. His offensive line is pretty good, so it's not that bad. But draft another receiver. How many receivers were available at that point? You know, there's so many. You could have drafted T. Higgins. T. Higgins was the first pick in the second round, and T. Higgins is a first-round talent. Chase Claypool. You know, I love Chase Claypool. I held him to a higher standard. But that would have helped Devontae Adams. I mean, there's so many options. And then they draft a quarterback. You're basically telling Aaron Rodgers, unless he was fully aware of what their draft strategy was, you're basically saying that figure it out. It's up to you. You're 35, 36. Figure it out for a couple of years, and then you're going to be gone, and we're going to move on with Jordan Love. And Jordan Love should be a good talent. I mean, from what everybody says, he's ready to play right now, maybe a year in. And Aaron Rodgers has to watch his back, which sucks for Aaron Rodgers, because he's been the only reason why they've been successful. The only reason why they went 13-3 last year, was because of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And help the guy out, man. You were 1 game away from the Super Bowl. 1 game. They lost to the Niners in the conference championship. What do? You get a backup quarterback. Like, it doesn't fucking make sense to me.
It's upsetting, because it's a pattern now in Green Bay where they don't help out their best fucking player. Like, Aaron Rodgers is an amazing quarterback.
Yeah.
But like you said, he doesn't get the help. He's got 1 wide receiver he has to rely on. And so it's man. It's like hard.
To draft an offensive line or a defensive player, or, you know, give him some help. Yeah, the guy needs some help.
You're basically telling him now that, you know, whatever you seem to believe is that we're going to give you a couple of years, but we're starting to build for the future now. We're starting to build for your replacement, right?
He was in that same situation with Favre, right? It took him 2 years to play.
Yeah.
So he understands what they're doing, because he's been that quarterback for 12 years. Mm-hmm. He understands what they're doing, but he still doesn't have to. It's not like Favre had options, you know. Favre had weapons. He had Anthony Freeman. Who else did he have? He had some good receivers back then, a good running game too, you know, where he was able to play that gunner style offense. But Aaron Rodgers, he's never had anybody, and it sucks for him. But I hope that it works out. I mean, he's an outspoken guy, so he's probably going to say something soon. So we'll see.
What Justin Herbert? Do you think he's good quarterback?
I thought I had him as my top-rated quarterback in the draft, and the fact that he went to LA is huge because they're not one quarterback away from a championship, but Rivers really built a good system with them. And now that he's gone, Justin Herbert's going to come in. It'll probably take him a couple of years. It's a tough division to play in. They're playing against Denver, who's on the rise. The Chiefs, they just won the Super Bowl, and they're playing the Raiders, who are always around. Like, they're a mid-level team, but they're getting better every year. So the Chargers are a tough team to play. They have a crazy defense. They lost Melvin Gordon this year, but they still have Austin Eckler at running back. They have one of the best receivers in the league in Keenan Allen, like the most underrated receiver of all time, probably. The guy is fucking sick, and he doesn't get the respect he deserves. And he has him to rely on. He's got some good weapons at tight end. He has Tyler Henry. So, I mean, we'll see what happens, but I think he's the best quarterback in the draft. And he's big, too. He's like 6'6".
6'6", fuck, man.
Yeah.
He's huge.
Yeah.
Like, he's strong. Like, I saw him play. Like, I didn't know anything about him. Obviously, I don't follow NCAA football, only in championships. So I'll watch, like, the Bama and, those teams. I'll listen the chatter on all the superstars, who's going to start getting drafted and everything. I had no clue who he was until they started talking about he might get picked by the Dolphins. And I'm like, who's this motherfucker? Like, seriously? And then I was like, 6'6", like, huge kid, He looks ready to play, man. Like,
throws deep, man. Throws a nice deep ball. Him and Keenan Allen are going to have a nice career together.
Fuck, man.
Yeah.
You imagine you fucking 20-some years old and you get drafted in the NFL? Like, then you're going to make bank, like.
You're set for life.
Right there. And everybody around you too.
That's why these kids are crying. It's not because they know they're going to get drafted, but it's just a confirmation now that I'm about to be a fucking millionaire and my family doesn't have to worry about anything ever again. I like what Byron Jones tweeted. He's like, all these young kids, they got to know, just be good with your money because 50% of it's going to be gone as soon as you get your paycheck. You got to pay agents. You got to pay taxes. You got to pay your managers. You got to pay your trainers. You got to pay all that shit. 50% of whatever contract you signed, whatever check it is, the first check you got is 50% of it's gone. And that's what a lot of these kids don't realize. You ever seen that the 30 for 30 broke?
Yeah.
Okay. There was one guy that said, I just signed a $7 million contract for 2 years, so $3.5 million a year. What did he do? He bought a $5 million yacht. He's like, little did I know, I don't even have that money yet. He's like, first of all, I'm not making enough the first year to pay for it. Second of all, he's like, I got to pay everybody. I got to pay my family. He's like, I just bought a yacht for no fucking reason. He's like, then I went broke. He's like, I had to wait for my second contract. He's like, I couldn't. He's like, I can barely live because I was paying off this fucking boat. I can barely live I was making, my checks were, let's say they were $50,000 a game, whatever it was. He's like, it was going straight to the boat. I couldn't pay for anything. And he's like, I went broke after my first contract and I never made that mistake again. Fucked up.
I think I want to believe that kids are smart now. They pay more attention to that kind of shit because
the information's out there.
Yeah, but they also bring. I believe that professional teams bring in people to help. We're gonna have a seminar the first fucking week, the week before your first paycheck.
I think it went viral. It was Chris Carter. He's doing like a seminar, the Rookie Symposium, and he's saying, he's like, guys, he's like, you're gonna have cousins that you never even knew existed. They're gonna call you. It's like, yeah, I got this business opportunity. I got this. He's like, yeah, I want to buy this house. My family, we're struggling. He's like, everybody's gonna ask you for money. He's like, don't give them a fucking penny because none of these people were there when you were trying to make it, and none of these people are gonna be there when you lost it. So they'll go fuck themselves. And it's like, but a lot of these kids feel bad because they feel like they owe something to their community. They owe something to their friends and their family. It's like, okay, you know what? Maybe pay off their debts. But like to give somebody cash just because they have a business opportunity, you never even really hung out with the guy, fuck it. Choose the 5, your tight circle, and rely on them. LeBron James, his management team is 3 of his best friends growing up. He kept them together. He's like, I'm going to give you guys a job. This is a job. You guys are going to probably become millionaires off of it. Just don't fuck me over, How often does a player get fucked over by his own family and friends? It happened to Jack Johnson in the NHL. His parents stole his money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sad, though.
It's sad when you can't even trust your parents, So you really got to be careful. Find a financial advisor that knows what he's doing, and that's it.
How you guys been doing with the podcast? Good. You guys
Yeah,
still
the podcast
spitting it
is
out, right?
Yeah, we did one yesterday. I'm gonna post it. Well, we posted it, but I'm gonna be cutting it up tonight. Our Facebook page is on fire. The website too. It's really good. So we're just putting content out there as much as we can. Or we lined up a few interviews. I got Bakari Sanya coming on from the Impact. A few guys. I just did a little small article piece on Rob Schremp. We had Rob Schremp on last year.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so there's a few guys that I've reached out to, and we're gonna see what we can get.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I've been looking. I noticed you guys have been spitting out content. You know.
Yeah.
You got like me. Like what else am I gonna do? I'm at home and I've been working hard at this, and I've been booking. Plus, you get to do them by Skype. Like I was saying in my last one, I said. Before, I would be limited to the people that I could ask because I enjoy having that one-on-one convo, right? When you came into my house and we sat in my studio and we just talked, I enjoy that more. I enjoy having a conversation face-to-face. But by Skype, I get to Skype with people in the Maritimes and get to ask a lot more, lot more people. And people are just more willing because they don't have to go anywhere. Yeah. Like I don't have to go to your place. Like most of the times I do them on Saturdays and people are always busy on Saturday and they don't want to take half their day, right?
Yeah. And it's good because I feel like it's going to be the future now. You're going to see a lot more Skype calls, Zoom, a lot more Zoom stuff. Zoom is a lot easier to use than Skype, by the way.
Oh, is it? I got to look into this, yeah.
For me, it was super easy. It's it's like it doesn't lag. When you're two people, Skype is perfect, but when you add like a third, fourth person, it's lagging. So where Zoom doesn't. Zoom is pretty good with that.
I've had issues with lag in a couple episodes ago, and I was like, I have to look into Zoom because I just have to figure out if I could. Because what I like about Skype is that all I do is I use the Skype app on my on my computer to actually record the video part and the sound, right? Okay. The sound goes through the board, but it's automatically just recorded. So
the way you set it up when it's split me on top and you on bottom or vice versa, that's how it is on your screen right now?
I don't even do that. Right now on my screen, I have you and I have me in a small little box.
Yeah, same thing,
right? Yeah. At the end of our conversation, when I hang up, it's going to save a video and it's there for 30 days. If I save that as an MP4 on my desktop, it loads up and it loads us side by side. So it automatically crops everything for you. So all I have to do is after we hang up, I take the video, I put it in iMovie, I add my intro, I add my outro, I add my music, my graphics, boom, I'm done. It takes me, if I don't have to edit the episodes at all, like cut them and everything, that part, I could do that within 30 minutes. I'm done.
And it's good, man, because you have the time to get creative,
Yeah.
You have the time now because you're not working, you're not tired, like your kids are home all day, right? So you're giving them the attention they need, and then when you need an hour to just fuck off, they'll give it to you because they probably don't want to see you either for an hour, So
I just have to yell at them, and then they hate me for about an hour.
It's okay, but then they get over it, right?
I love this. I won't lie. Like I've gotten used to this way of life. It's given me an opportunity to do a lot more of these, which I fucking love, right? It's given me an opportunity to start kind of having a clearer vision for the future. Like I really want to try to make this podcast my thing. Yeah, and I know it takes time. I know I have to be committed and dedicated and consistent with the episodes, and that's why I'm trying to release episodes now on Tuesdays and Thursdays as my interviews. And I'm also working on I'm basically working on releasing content Monday to Friday every day. The Monday, Wednesday, and Friday it's shorter and it's more. It'll be more YouTube driven. But it'll also be released as a short episode on my podcast channel.
Okay.
On my podcast channel, like on iTunes or all that shit.
Podcast. Right? What we do is everything goes through our Facebook. Our Facebook is our moneymaker,
Yeah.
And we're getting as many followers as we can on Facebook. Instagram, it's tough to get followers on Instagram and Twitter. It's impossible. It's impossible because
no one follows anything anymore.
It's crazy because it's all there for you.
Yeah.
So
it's fucked up because I used to I worked hard on building. I know it sounds crazy, but I built my following on Twitter years ago. I got on Twitter because I loved it for MMA because I would live tweet during MMA fights.
Best thing to do.
And
How fun is it?
How
How fun is that to do?
It's the best, right? And I built up over 1,000 followers quickly, and then I stopped using Twitter because I discovered fucking Instagram. And Instagram, I started doing the same thing. Started building 4, 5, 6, 700. I got to 900, and then they changed the system where basically no one follows no one anymore.
Yeah, I know.
But you want to know why, right? It's fucking TikTok. That's the bullshit.
Really? No, I'm not doing that. I'm not touching that shit.
I'm watching my kids really closely because it's not, but I pay a lot of attention because it's you could post something on TikTok and get 600 views within an hour.
Yeah, and you have like 3 followers.
I have 7. Because if you put a hashtag, one specific hashtags, it puts it on the homepage of all these people flipping through.
Like so my sister, she has like 90 followers, but she has one video which has like 2,700 views. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm working on. I'm just starting. I posted a few things, but it's really what I want to do is I want to start posting clips of my podcasts so that I could start getting views that way and maybe start getting like I'm just looking to get just as many. I know it sucks because I always say that I'm just doing these for the conversation, and I am. Like, I just enjoy having conversation, especially now that I don't get to see fucking people. Yeah. Like, me and you can't sit at a fucking cafe on an afternoon and go out and just talk draft or talk sports. Like, but I also enjoy the podcast because I enjoy putting content for people, even if it's only for 2-3 people, right?
Of course.
But I want to be better at this, and that's why I'm doing a lot. Like, I want to get better at this, you know, and I listen to my episodes and I edit them and I try to fix a few things, but I just fucking enjoy it. And I enjoy watching you guys just blow up too, because I'm like, like I said, I started noticing you guys put out more content, and I'm like, I fucking love that, because I know that you guys are like, you think like me. You're like, I gotta hustle to make this thing happen, and you guys have been consistent from the get go with this shit.
The thing is, we've been as consistent as we can be. Yeah. There is a lot of times where like we do a lot of stuff for like a week, 2 weeks, and then we kind of fuck off for 2 weeks. Where now we had a conversation the other day, like during this downtime, there's no time to fuck around. Like, we have too much time on our hands. Yeah. Only one of us is really working full time. And he's our graphics guy, and he just does everything. Like, it's Duke, right? He does everything. Like, any image that we have, he'll do it, and he does it super quick. He's a very good graphic designer. And then we have like this guy that used to work for me. He's helping us with like the social media stuff, so he posts everything. And he lives in California, so when he wakes up, the first thing he does is he posts everything. I'll send him a message in the morning, and Pease helps us get the guests, and he organizes the show. Eagle is our producer live on the show. I'm basically just trying to guide everybody and tell them, okay, guys, what are we doing this morning? What do we have available? And I like to write, so I like to blog a lot, so I'll blog. Nice. And so it's fun. We all have our own little thing that we do, and it's been working so far, and I like it. And we just boosted up. I think we have like 750 followers on Instagram, on Facebook, which is good. It was at the beginning of the year, it was like 500. Nice. And we get a lot of views on our Facebook page for the mini clips and stuff. Yeah. Our YouTube is getting a lot bigger. You know, we used to average about like maybe 20 a view, maybe like I think about 100 downloads a month for the podcast. Now we're about 150 a month. So slowly it's getting bigger, but you know, it's not where we want to be. And the website's a lot better too. We want to start collecting ads from there. So we're taking it step by slowly, but we're trying to be as consistent as we can.
Yeah, like you guys have a different dynamic than me because you guys are more of a team, right? You guys have individual roles on me. Like me, like I just sometimes I'll think of something and I'll be like, it's just like you. Like I released an episode today. It was something that I recorded on the weekend, and I was like, fuck, I don't have something for Thursday. Let me text Terry. Maybe he can help me out and we can bang out an episode. Like, boom, like that, and I'm good, right? And because it's not subject specific. But I know if I have you on, it's because I want to fucking talk some sports.
Yeah, exactly. I'll fucking talk it all fucking day. Right. And I don't mind. Like, I've had the same conversation with you. I've had it probably about 3 times. You know, I don't mind. I'll say it over and over again, you know. But the thing is, the more you talk, the more your story changes a bit. So I gotta try and stay consistent. Yeah, this is the only thing.
Do you put Carmen Electra in your top 10?
Of all time?
Yeah.
Carmen Electra, top 10 of all time. It's tough. I'd let her sit on my face for sure.
She made a comeback. I did not know she was still that fucking hot.
Oh yeah, she's still got it for sure. Top 10 of all time. I mean, I guess I would No, I don't think I would.
No,
It's
huh?
tough for me to say. I would have to really write. You know what? Maybe I'll do a
There's
list.
a lot. There's a lot. There's a lot. I mean, I'm 39 years old. I went through different stages of my life with
Well,
different.
your wife is number one, just like my girlfriend's number one, right? So it's like you gotta.
Of course. But it's funny because even before I watched the episode, I started hearing about fucking Carmen Electra trending on Twitter. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, oh, yeah, Dennis Rodman. And I put two and two together right away. Yeah. But my wife was like, why am I seeing Carmen Electra or here? I said, oh, because Rodman. And she didn't put two and two together right away, right? Yeah, but I knew. It's fucking crazy. She's still hot. But
no, she's good. She still got it.
It's anyway, my point was it's awesome to see, like, when I see you guys, like, obviously I know you more than the other guys on your podcast, but like there's just something, man, about podcasting that, like, I've been at this many tries, and this is the one that I decided to, like, this, I have to make this work, you know?
Yeah.
And a lot of people I listen to, they always say, like, the thing about podcasting is that you have to be consistent. Like you can't look at the numbers early on and say, like, I only got 30, I only got 13, like I'll go on my website and then I might do like on average like 15 downloads per episode, right? But then I'll go on YouTube and then I'll have a guest. Like I had Yannick, right, on. You know Yannick.
Oh yeah, of course. I
love that guy, right?
Great guy.
He's the most of all the episodes recently, like on YouTube, he got me the most views on YouTube instantly.
Really? Yeah.
So obviously, like he had a hard pull. Obviously, he's a coach. Probably a lot of students, a lot of people that follow him and know who he is. I mean, that guy.
It's funny you said coach, because our biggest guest wasn't Marco Briette, who played for the Alouettes for years. It wasn't Otis Grant. You know, it wasn't Robbie Schremp. Our biggest guest was a friend of ours that played football with. His name is Nathan Taylor. He's a coach at University of Ottawa. He's a DB coach and the head scout there. And he got us like 300 views on YouTube. And that was back then when we only used YouTube. And I was like, fuck, you know, like it gave me hope. And then our next guest wasn't as good. But I was like, fuck, you know, if Nathan can get us 300, you know what I mean? Who knows what like the next guest can be? Like a guy like Yannick is great. You know? Yeah,
because sometimes you don't think about the pull that person has or the following that person has, right? Like, dude, I met Yannick when I first moved to Montreal, 2007. I walked into TriStar and this fucking guy was there just sparring and got all these monsters. And I quickly realized that I'm like, well, wait a minute, like you're not as young as the rest of these guys.
He also doesn't look like a fighter.
Not at all, but
he looks like a painter.
He became one of my favorite training partners there, like quickly, because, you know, he told me, he's like, I don't fight anymore. I'm just here. And I saw like the mentality he had behind it. Huh?
He competes in jiu-jitsu a lot.
Yeah.
And
now
that's why I respect Yannick a lot. Yeah. And he's good. He's fucking good. The thing about Yannick is that I've probably only rolled with him a handful of times, because when Brossard opened, he moved and I stayed downtown, and then I moved to the West Island. So, but he comes to the West Island sometimes. I just haven't really crossed paths with him, and I haven't gone to Brossard yet. So, but he's always been active, and he's a legit black belt, like a legit black belt.
Yeah.
Very good. I'm a big fan.
Good. And like I said, like I had him on, and I got the most views of the recent, since I started loading them up on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
The thing with podcasts is that I want to always put them out there as much as possible, as many platforms as possible as well, right? I rely on iTunes because it's kind of the mecca when it comes to podcasting. It's like if you think podcast, you think iTunes podcast. For me, that's because that's where I started listening to podcasts. I had an iPhone when I discovered podcasting. But really, if I think about it, I started listening to Joe Rogan. This was the first podcast, and it was YouTube. Yeah. And then I got an iPhone, and then I was like, oh, yeah, you can have it on the apps now, and then they're available and all that. But like, YouTube, in my opinion, is where like you really have to, like, it's where I try to focus a lot. Like if I have videos, I'm like, and that's why I do these small clips.
YouTube's the big one, and YouTube's the only one that would actually pay you for your content eventually.
That's right.
To that point. So
yeah. But you guys inspired me when you started releasing. When we spoke the one of the first time, you said, "Yeah, we do these small clips and we put them on the Facebook."
Yeah.
And then I'm like, so what I do is I try to pick certain interesting parts of the interviews, and I'll release 2-3 minutes, hoping to entice someone to go download the episode, right?
And that's what it is. If that person's interesting enough in those 2-3 minutes, then somebody might go. And let's say it's 10% of the people that watch it go download, which is what I found too. Is I found that a lot of the times when I posted a small clip of somebody, that we'll get more downloads on our podcast and we'll get more downloads on YouTube too. So what I do is I release the full episode on YouTube and then I'll cut it down and post it on Facebook, Twitter, sometimes Instagram. I need to start posting more on Instagram. What we did also with Instagram is that we got like on one of an article that one of our writers wrote is that we have contributors also. We have guys that write for us for free. Because they just want to write, and they're good writers too. Like a couple of them are journalism students. One of them he does like play-by-play for local sports, and he's also a journalism major, so he writes for us too. So we got lucky with that. We have like a group of guys that we can rely on, and but so we use them, we leverage them, So they send us something, and then we put it out there, and we get clicks, and we just want as many clicks to the website and YouTube as possible, so we can start selling some shit,
Yeah.
And we're doing merchandise too. I'll get you a shirt.
Awesome. But it's a way, it can be a career path at a certain point. It's something that you need to, like, the goal for me is to one day this be like, hopefully can make money off of this, right? I can start making money off of this. And people need to understand when they get into podcasting, like, you ain't going to make money early on. Like, you need to build something and you need to become good at this. Let's face it, you put a microphone, like me and you can sit at a fucking bar and have a 3-hour conversation and we're like, man, if we just record that conversation, that was a fucking good conversation. But sometimes you put a mic in front of your face and someone is like in your back of mind, like, people are going to listen to this, and it makes this, there's something you need. Like, I'm more and more, the more I do these podcasts, the more comfortable I am on the mic, the more comfortable, like, I forget about the camera. I'm not constantly like thinking like, oh, like, is this okay? Like, you go with the flow, right? There's different aspects of a conversation.
It's true. And that's another thing too, is that a lot of these guys that we get on is that they don't really, like, we don't really have the big following yet. So they're like, okay, I'm not going to risk much for these guys. So that's where it is. You need the followers to get the guests, but you need the guests to get the followers too, So that's where we're struggling a little bit, but it's been working. Like I had Robbie Shrimp on, and first we had him on last year, and we did an interview with him. It was great. Okay, but he didn't want it up there. So he messaged me. He's like, listen, there's a few things in there I don't want to say, so can we redo it? And we redid it gladly. Like, I didn't put the anything up. I don't even know where the other interview is. I couldn't care less. We put the next one up, and it was good. Was it as good as the other one? Was it as funny as the other one? No, but it was still good. Yeah. And I respect Robbie for that. I'm not going to screw him over, and that's where we have to find the line. And it's but we've had a good run, and so far it's good, and we're on the same page. Everybody's clicking. It's tough to get everybody to buy in on certain things. Like, I'll wake up in the morning and I'll send a message like, hey guys, Peas, I need you to write this article. Duke, I need you to get me the picture on this or whatever. And then if they don't answer, or if they'll be like, yeah, it's going to be done, and then it's not done, it's like we go a day without content,
Yeah.
And I'm okay with a day without content, but if we agree to something, we got to make sure we do it. And it's the same thing with me. Is like I've dropped the ball so many times, but we just have to make sure to be consistent and not fuck it up. That's the only thing.
It's that aspect of being consistent, and like, I could tell that you have that mentality, that way of thinking. Like, you're like, dude, like, we can't go 2 or 3 days without putting out content.
Yeah.
Right. You got to put out content, and that's how I treat my social media. When I was a pro wrestler, I'm still a pro wrestler, but when pro wrestling was actually a thing, and I would wrestle every weekend, like I would make sure that my followings would understand, like, oh yeah, that guy's a pro wrestler. So you always have to keep content, like post some content, so people remember who and what you're about, so you kind of not forgotten, right? And a lot of people are afraid to do that because they're like, why are you doing that on social media? Why? I said, well, maybe you're only using social media to post pictures of your kids and of your family or of your dog, and you have no interest in making money off of this.
Of course.
But I look at social media, and I've been looking at social media for a long time. It's a business venture. It's a business opportunity. I'm not doing this to be like, hey, look at me. I'm doing that for, hey, look at me. But also, it's a business for me. I hate to use brand building because it's so cliche, but as the podcast now, it's like I didn't want to, and I've told you this before, I didn't want to be just have an identity of as a pro wrestler. Like, I want to be that he's the father, he's the coach, he's the pro wrestler, he's the podcaster.
Yeah.
Oh, he does this podcast thing. Check it out. Bang, bang, bang. Like, I see social media as a business tool, and I use it as a tool.
I loved your Instagram page before. I mean, I still do. It's still great, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how you found different ways to like kind of just like keep it going with the training and stuff.
Yeah.
And now you incorporated your kids in there too. It's good. I like what you're doing. And you've always been probably one of the best followers on Instagram for me. And
Oh, thanks, man.
I continue, man. Continue. Don't stop. I mean, I like the content. I don't have a personal Instagram account. I used to. I deleted it a long time ago. I might put it back. I don't know. We'll see.
You know what's fun about it is that my wife is starting to buy into it. So I'm starting to do videos, and she never allowed me to put her on my Instagram ever.
Yeah,
she didn't like the attention. But when I explained to her how because she thought the same. She's like, you're just using this fucking, get off your 40, you're almost 40. What the fuck are you doing on Instagram? But I'm like, do you understand? I use this as a tool. Like, I'm a pro wrestler, and if I want to put my name out there. Now I consider myself a podcaster. I want to put my name out there. I want people, I'll use any fucking tools if I know it's going to get me one more listen, one more follow, because I believe in the people I get in. That's another thing. Like, I had a conversation with Zach McGibbon, which is the last episode that the guy had a great episode. The guy's a news writer for a radio thing in Ottawa, and
TSN,
I met him.
TSN 1200.
He's TSN 1200 as well. He has a podcast there. This is wrestling, and I met him because he's a pro wrestling commentator, and he did some of our shows. Yeah. And the guy is just a class act professional, and he's into broadcasting. I knew that if I was gonna, I was gonna be able to have a great conversation with this guy, and he knew how to be on a microphone as well, right? I knew this guy does radio. He knows how this shit works. He'll be comfortable to have a conversation from it. I won't have to warm this guy up for 10, 15 minutes.
Like with me, like as soon as you called me, I saw that the red light was on.
I clicked on.
I knew that we were talking, so I was like, let's just go. And I know that he's probably the same way, where he sees the red light, we're live, so like, yeah, we're good, like ready to go. He doesn't have to prepare himself; he knows he's already on.
And it makes the conversation flow so much easier on a podcast, because sometimes I'll have guests that have never done this before, and then you're just waiting for the question, right? And they don't kind of understand that I don't necessarily always do a question and answer thing. It's more like, hey, just go where the conversation takes us, right?
Yeah, that's it. But it's good, man. We've been hustling, and it's good. We're gonna make some dinner now and chill, watch some TV, and that's it, man.
Awesome, man.
Life. Quarantine life. Trying to work out. Like I started a new diet today. I'm doing intermittent dieting again with my girlfriend. So we're doing from 4 to 10. We're eating only. Yeah. And I work out in the morning. While I work out, I go for a run. Today I went for a run at the park, and so right now I'm starving.
Nice. That's good, man. Listen, thanks for coming on again, and I appreciate it.
My pleasure, homie.
I hope things get back to normal sooner than later.
Yeah, man. We'll hit the gym together.
For sure, man. Thanks a lot, man.
No problem, buddy.
I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Well, that's it for episode 36 of This Savage Life. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you haven't done so, don't forget to subscribe to This Savage Life. Pretty much available anywhere you choose to listen to your podcast. Also available on YouTube. On my YouTube page, check me out, Savage Paulson. I upload all the episodes on my YouTube page, on video included, so you can check it out there. Yeah, I appreciate the fuck of everybody that took the time to download, subscribe, comment, share, all that shit. Really appreciate you guys. If you're still listening up to now, thank you. It's greatly appreciated. Yeah, that's it. Episode 36 is done. Like I've said before, on the previous episode, I'm trying really hard to be consistent with my episodes. Trying real hard to release them on Tuesdays and Thursdays now. I'm also working on other content in the very, very near future, hopefully. But for now, I'm trying real hard to be consistent, just to put out some content. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time to download and subscribe and share and all that stuff. Really appreciate it. Until next time, stay safe, stay home, and much love.